This is Autoline Daily, the show dedicated to all of you enthusiasts of the global automotive industry. Sean's out for the rest of the week, and so I'm filling in. Say, could we be headed into an oil glut? The oil industry is sure worried about it. The IEA, or International Energy Agency, says there will be a surplus of oil later this year if OPEC goes ahead with planned production increases. And the main cause is a drop in demand because of the slowdown in the Chinese economy. China is now the world's largest importer of oil. Crude oil prices are down 12% this year, even though a war involving Iran could break out in the Middle East. One thing's for sure, while the oil industry is worried about a glut, motorists at the pump will rejoice if it brings down prices. Do you remember those reports about front suspension failures on Tesla Model X's and Model S's? NHTSA, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, launched a preliminary investigation into the defect because it could potentially be a safety problem. But yesterday, the agency closed that investigation, saying the defect never prevented drivers from being able to control their vehicles, so it was not a safety defect. It also closed down an investigation into lead-acid battery fires in Toyota RAV4s. The batteries supposedly shorted out when they came in contact with the hold-down frame that keeps the battery in place. But NHTSA found that the fires were caused by aftermarket batteries that were too big, or from old batteries that exceeded their expected life. So again, no defect. We point to these cases because maybe it's time for the agency to reevaluate its priorities and strategy. Despite all kinds of safety equipment mandated on cars, the number of fatalities and the fatality rate involving motor vehicles is trending up. The fatality rate, which measures the number of people killed in vehicle accidents for every 100 million miles driven, peaked in the early 1970s and then started a long-term downwards trend. It bottomed out around 2011, which is the same year that electronic stability control was made standard, and then it started trending upwards. Since then, we've seen blind spot detection, lane keeping, automated emergency braking, and other ADAS tech added to cars. And yet the number of people killed and the fatality rate are going up. The fatality rate is the most important to watch because it accounts for any increase in the number of drivers and vehicles. No one seems to be sure why the rate is going up, but we strongly suspect that driver distraction is a major culprit. And that's why NHTSA should reevaluate what it should be doing. And we think it's time to put a major effort into mandating V2V technology, which can make it almost impossible for cars to crash into each other. You know, good news here for people looking for a used car because prices continue to decline. According to Edmunds, used car prices in the second quarter dipped nearly 7% to about $27,400 on average compared to last year. But used EV prices are coming down even faster, with values plunging over 20% in the second quarter to about $33,800. Edmunds says used EV prices are falling faster because automakers are cutting prices and boosting incentives to increase sales of new EVs, which have cooled off. And because of that, it's hurting owners looking to trade in or sell their used EV. And over in Europe, low EV resale values are hurting leasing companies. According to data from AutoVista, resale values for BEVs in Germany are 24% below pre-pandemic levels and 30% lower in the UK. Meanwhile, used ICE vehicles only saw their values drop about 15%. As a result, Hertz says it lost $150 million selling close to 20,000 BEVs, and the rental company Sixt says lower residual for BEVs cut its 2023 earnings by $44 million. And leasing companies have been forced to raise costs for customers. According to the Center for Automotive Research, in August of 2021, a lease for a 45,000 euro EV cost about $284 a month. Now that's more than doubled to 621 euros a month. So leasing companies are calling on governments to slow the transition to EVs until car buyers are more accepting of them. You know, AlixPartners found that Chinese automakers and suppliers have a 35% cost advantage compared to everyone else. That's a key reason why Chinese vehicle exports are booming. But it goes beyond exports. The Chinese auto industry is building factories all around the world and could take over 1/3 of the global market by the end of the decade. If you're a legacy automaker or supplier, how do you compete with that? Well, tune in this afternoon to Autoline After Hours when we will have Mark Wakefield from AlixPartners on the show. Keith Naughton from Bloomberg will also join us. But we're not going to get into a lot of hand-wringing. We're going to be talking about solutions and strategies, and we are going to turn Autoline After Hours into a forum of how to compete.
There's nothing wrong with heavy metal.
Hey, lighten up.
But with world-class composite material, Teijin Automotive Technologies makes vehicles lighter, safer, and more eco-friendly.
Polestar is producing vehicles in the United States for the first time. It started production of the Polestar 3 SUV in South Carolina at its plant that it shares with Volvo. And it will also export them to Europe to avoid the EU's new tariff on Chinese-made EVs. Up to now, Polestars were all made in China. Next year, Polestar will continue to expand its manufacturing footprint outside of China because the Polestar 4 will actually be made in South Korea. Besides making cars in the U.S., Polestar is planning to expand its retail network by adding 20 more stores to its 27 dealer network in the United States by the end of 2025. That's a 75% increase. Currently, it only sells the Polestar 2 in the U.S., which saw a 41% slump in sales in the first half of the year. But with the Polestar 3 sales beginning this month and the Polestar 4 entering the market at the end of the year, Polestar says it's ready to expand its sales network. Jeep sales in the U.S. market are going from bad to worse. They fell 19% in the second quarter. And Jeep knows what one of its biggest problems are. Its products are just too expensive. So it's starting to reprice its lineup, starting with the 2025 Compass. The base price of a Compass Sport is now $27,495, and that includes destination. That's about $2,500 cheaper than it was before. That includes all-wheel drive and an all-new interior. The Latitude model gets a $3,725 haircut and now starts at just under $30,000. It also gets heated seats, a heated steering wheel, and remote start as standard equipment. Now, we fully expect to see Jeep reprice more of its vehicles. Sales have fallen sharply all across the line except for the Wagoneer and the Grand Wagoneer. And Nissan is also really struggling in the U.S. market. The Rogue is one of the most important vehicles in its lineup, accounting for 1/3 of its sales and half of the production at its plant in Tennessee. But despite updating the model earlier this year, sales of the Rogue fell 4.5% in the first half. More alarmingly, the decline accelerated in the second quarter, with sales dropping 29% to just over 50,000 units. Meanwhile, its competitors, the Toyota RAV4 and the Honda CR-V, saw first-half sales increase 33% and 20% respectively. The lack of a hybrid option is a big reason why the Rogue is losing ground to those models. Get this, just the hybrid versions of the RAV4 outsold the Rogue by 25%, and Edmunds estimates that the CR-V hybrid nearly matched the Rogue in Q2 sales. Hey, what do you do if you're a battery maker and suddenly realize that EV demand is not as high as you thought it would be? Why, you look for new markets that need your batteries. That's what you do, and that's exactly what's happening. Bloomberg reports that battery makers are turning to the stationary storage market, where utilities, commercial businesses, and even homes are using batteries to store electricity for later use. In fact, in China, the market for storage batteries is now bigger than the one for consumer electronics. Tesla is even seeing a big jump in its battery storage business, even as its car sales drop. You know, it's like the old saying goes, as one door slams shut, another one pops open. And that brings us to the end of today's report. Thanks for watching, and if you have not done so already, please subscribe to this channel. Thanks.
Autoline Daily is brought to you by Bridgestone, solutions for your journey. Intrepid Control Systems, over-the-air engineering boost your game. MEDC, where Michigan businesses are powering the future of mobility. And by Teijin Automotive Technologies, the formula for better mobility.
Intrepid's NeoVi Pi, allowing automotive engineers to interface, capture, and monitor vehicle data using Raspberry Pi. As a matter of fact, it's the automotive industry's first robust platform for Raspberry Pi, featuring Intrepid CAN-FD technology and Raspberry Pi Compute Module. The NeoVi Pi is designed for automotive environments, allowing use with relative power ranges and applications. In addition, the NeoVi Pi enables you to use the Raspberry Pi for compute while avoiding additional development to adapt to network environments. That makes the NeoVi Pi powerful enough to solve your vehicle network problems, yet small enough to fit in your backpack. One of many Intrepid tools used for developing zonal architecture and software-defined vehicles.
Knowing that when it's time to unplug, your tires were built to get you to the place you recharge. That's what really matters. Bridgestone Turanza EV tires with a 50,000-mile limited warranty.
When we did our research for the talent that we need for this program, Michigan was really the top of the list. In order to be successful in this space, you really have to have the right people, the right mindset, the right environment.